I'm MM and I ask a lot of questions.
I'm Pia, and I don't have a filter.
We'll be asking questions you dare not ask.
And giving answers that might be a little too honest.
So listen up, come and eavesdrop.
This is
The
Chismis Table.
Online dating. So it's been around for years, but I think because we've been on lockdown for 6 months, it's become a lot more popular because there's really no other way to meet people nowadays. And a lot of people like me live alone, and online dating is, I think, one of the more interesting ways to talk to people. But I think it's trickier now, because before, when you go on online dates, you match with someone, you talk to them, and then that same weekend you can meet each other and you can more or less see if you're compatible. But now there's no way to meet each other safely, at least for the meantime. So the main question now is, if you've talked for 6 months and you've shared a lot of stories, a lot of private moments, when does the relationship start? Does it really count when you haven't even met yet or you've never been physically together? So a lot of people, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people now that have these questions with them. So my first question to you, is what online dating apps have you tried?
Well, I only tried one, which
One?
is Tinder. Yes, just
So
one.
conservative.
I'm still a dalagang Filipina.
Right.
So I only tried one, which is Tinder, back, 5 years ago. How about you?
You're a pioneer.
I know. I'm the founder.
I've
Founding members of Tinder.
Yeah. I've tried 3. I've tried Tinder,
Wow. Okay.
Bumble, and
No judgment.
See, that's another thing. People say a lot of not so nice things about people on online dating apps. I think it's a lot more accepted now, but 5 years ago, when these things are new, there's a lot of, stigma or negative connotations around being on an online dating app. But before we go there, how do you rate Tinder? And why are you so satisfied with Tinder that you didn't even bother trying other apps?
Well, because I was lucky to meet my current partner on Tinder. That's
Are you
it's something
immediately?
not- 3 tries. No, I think he was one of the first ones.
Are you
I matched
serious?
with. Yeah, it's a match made in Tinder heaven.
That
was very
is so
lucky.
rare. Yeah.
I know, and so that's why I didn't try other online dating apps. That's why.
Obviously, it took me a while before I found the one. But so Tinder was, I think, the first one that came to the Philippines. Or I no. There's OkCupid earlier than Tinder. But if I remember correctly, the original reputation of OkCupid is it's for people who are a bit older.
Oh, okay.
And then Tinder successfully marketed themselves as a dating app for the young people because it's an app. There are different ways to work with it. And then it was pretty okay for a while. And then Bumble came in. And I remember Bumble being only available on Apple iPhone. So the perception is Tinder is like a mix of all the crazies, and you don't really know what you're going to get from Tinder. But people assume that because only iPhone users can use Bumble, that people on Bumble are more sophisticated.
Okay.
And there are a lot
I
more
get it now.
foreigners on Bumble. I think it was something like that before, but then it became available on Android too. So in the end, it's just the same. But a lot of women preferred Bumble because, do you know how Bumble works?
No.
No. On Bumble, when you match, only the girl can send a message to the guy. So if you
Ah,
and I match, I
okay.
have 24 hours to send you a message. And then when I send
Mm,
you a message, you have 24 hours to reply to my message. And then once you
okay.
do reply, then the time limit is goes away. But if we don't reply within the 24-hour period, then the match expires, right?
Oh.
So it was a good filter, I suppose, for a lot of pervy
Mm.
messages that I'm sure you also received when you're on Tinder. Um, but I found that people are more interactive on Tinder than on Bumble. So I would send some
Mm,
messages on Bumble and then I would say hi.
mm.
They would say hi back, and then that's really it. So it's harder for
Okay.
me, I feel, to start a conversation. Now, OkCupid is, I would say, personally the worst. I mean,
Why?
I
Why is that?
know I know there are couples who have been formed on OkCupid, but for me, I hate OkCupid because there is no
Mm-hmm.
filter. So anyone can
Mm.
send you anything. And
Okay.
somehow it's easier, or it's easier, I think, for people to match from different parts of the world.
Mm.
And so a lot of these foreigners are also matching in the Philippines, but they range from old to young to pervy to not pervy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you just get bombarded with so many messages that you don't really like to get, so at
Mm-hmm.
least on Tinder, you get messages, even if they're bad, at least they're cute. But because you already matched with them. But on
Yeah.
OkCupid, you get these messages from
Oh,
everyone.
it's not like you have to match with them. It's like,
No.
oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
They can't chat with you, but they can at least send you an initial intro. That's what it's called, an
Oh,
intro.
okay.
Yeah, so it's kind
Wow.
of chaotic, and there are a lot of
Mm.
ways to match with people. Like there are recommended people, there are people online and whatever. But I think what's good on OkCupid is that you have the option to answer certain questions, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then it shows your match percentage with the people you're looking at. Um,
Okay.
so you see if you're sort of compatible personality wise. If they're ugly but you're at 90%, maybe you consider matching with them. But still, lots of old men on OkCupid sending very weird messages. um, Tinder as well, lots of pervs on Tinder too. But again, at
Mm.
least you kind of filter out the
Yeah.
people you don't want to see. But what's
Mm.
interesting for you is you
What?
have been in pretty stable, long-term
Yeah.
relationships
Yeah.
since ever since I knew you.
Yeah.
So, and most of them come from school, right? When we were in high school,
Yep.
and then when we were in
Yep.
college. So, what made you go to an online dating app?
It's actually one of my gay friends. Shout out to you, Maya.
Of
We were
course, it's Maya.
It's Maya Juliano, her full name. So I was after a breakup, I
Mm,
was really devastated. I was going on different dates. I met people through my MBA, through
mm.
work, everywhere. So I was dating around, and then I wasn't really
Dating
satisfied.
around.
Yeah, like I would go on first dates, and then that's it.
Okay, yeah.
So I would meet a lot of these guys, but I couldn't really find someone that I am compatible with or that I'd like to spend more time with. So on our way home from work, Maya just told me out of the blue, hi, like, there's this new app. It's called Tinder. It's like Grinder, but for straight people. And Maya told me about it that I should try it. The good thing is that I knew about Grinder because they were telling me about it, and I knew how it worked. So like at first I was very hesitant because as you were saying earlier, the stigma on online dating. But come to think of it, why not give it a try? So I tried it out, and Maya was the one swiping. I don't know if it was left or right. Maya was the first one swiping.
Ooh, it's right, MM.
He was choosing for me, so he was choosing who to match with. So So there, that's why I got into the app, and I don't really regret it. Yeah.
What's better, meeting people from Tinder or meeting people from your MBA classes or wherever?
That's tricky. I think the good thing about meeting people on Tinder is that you already have that filter. You can already do sort of a background check before you
True.
talk to them.
That's
Unlike
right,
people,
yeah.
right? Unlike people that you meet every day that just approach you and ask you out for a date, and it would just be weird, and you won't really have any knowledge on who they are. So we already do our NBI investigation before.
I don't know. People never just approached me and asked me out. So
I'm sure they were just shy, because we can come off very strong. So
no, preposterous. Anyway, I went on Tinder.
Mm,
I think it was also around 5 years ago. I can't remember
yeah.
why or how I found out about it, but there was that comparison with Grindr, and I think that's why
Mm.
people there was that stigma against Tinder because at first it really was a hookup app, right? when
Yeah.
people
Oh,
want
really?
to, yeah, it was the
Oh, okay.
main purpose for a lot of people. I'm not saying it's yours or
Oh,
my
okay,
purpose as
okay.
well, but a
Yeah.
lot of people go on Tinder because it's just easier to, it's like a catalog of people you want to sleep with.
I
But
get it now. Okay.
initially I used Tinder when I travel because I quickly realized that Tinder is the best way to find someone who can tour you for free
Mm.
and also give you free food. This was
Oh,
the
that's a good
time.
tip.
This was the time when I was still eager to travel on my own. So I don't like traveling with other people and making itineraries that would
Mm.
accommodate other people. So I would travel by myself to different countries. And so it was easier for me to meet these guys, have a free
Yeah.
tour, and then have a free meal because I was also poor 5 years ago. And then out of boredom, I started using it here in Manila.
Mm.
And I would match up with a lot of travelers too. And I started meeting up with them too because I felt like it was good karma because I had such great experiences when I was traveling and people helping me out.
Mm. Yeah.
So I just felt it was good karma to also tour these people. I didn't give them free meals. They would still pay. But at least I would,
Poor.
I was still poor. I was poor for a long time. But also, they had a lot of questions about the Philippines and Manila,
Mm.
and they would always be very surprised to see how urban Metro Manila is. So I made it
Mm.
like my mission to make sure that they have a good time, at least here in Metro Manila, because they will bring back those stories when they
When they go
when they
home.
go
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, not all experiences are great, right? So
Yeah.
there were a lot of very vulgar, very pervy messages that go into these online dating apps. And the
Mm.
one I've received a lot of them, but the one that
Mm.
I remember the most was he is British and he according to him, he comes to the Philippines regularly because he has business here. But at the
Okay.
time that we matched, he said that he was only going to be here for 1 week. So he said he wanted to go straight to the point. And he said verbatim, and I remember this clearly, he said, I will buy you a new dress and I'll take you out to expensive dinners. And the only thing I'm going to ask from you is you follow every command I have in bed.
Wow.
It's so gross. It's so assuming.
Wow.
And at first, I was so insulted, not for me, but for all the Filipinas
Yeah. Yeah.
on Tinder. Because how
Oh
dare
my
you, right?
God.
Like, so at first, I was thinking, like, how do you think that that kind of message would
Mm-hmm.
encourage me to go immediately to your hotel room? But I also realized that because he said he comes to the Philippines regularly, so he probably doesn't, or he probably uses that line many times, or he has used it many times, and it worked because he's not going to use it again if it didn't work, right? So I mean, it's not a secret that there are people, or there are Filipinos on Tinder who use it for revenue or income. So that was it wasn't exactly the worst, but it was the most memorable for me because it says a lot about him, a lot about what he thinks about the Filipinas on Tinder, and what the Filipinas actually say yes to for people like him to send messages like that. So did you ever get any kind of yucky message?
You know, surprisingly, I didn't receive any survey or. I know it was such a nice experience for me.
Yeah,
They should get me for like a testimonial or a brand ambassador or something.
that's a fake Tinder experience. That is unfair on behalf of all the women who have been abused
I'm so
verbally on
sorry.
Tinder.
I'm so sorry. Maybe because I wasn't really swiping right a lot. Like I would really look at the
How
back.
dare you?
Like I was very, very choosy. So I would like match with people with the same profile, maybe, or the same circles that I'm with. So that's why I didn't really get any of these three messages. And I won't really match with foreigners. And
That's true.
most,
That is the risk of matching with foreigners.
yes. And most of them are like within Metro Manila, within the vicinity. So I'm sure that they wouldn't be sending those type of messages. Filipinos aren't really that forward.
No, they're not.
Right.
But also, I mean, the foreigners I matched with, we're all in Metro Manila. But again,
Interesting.
yeah. So a lot of them would be travelers too. So I think that they're more confident to be yucky because they know it's all temporary. And they can get away with anything. So you're unfair.
I'm sorry.
And because you met your boyfriend quite early, I think, when you started using the app. So your exposure was very limited, unlike poor people like me and a lot of other Filipinos who had to endure years of
I think I was
waiting.
on the app for like only 2 months.
What?
2 or 3 months.
That's so unfair, Em. I mean, you're lucky, good for you, but not good for us. I had to wade through mountains of garbage before I found the tiny little gem that is my current boyfriend. But not
But
all.
that gem is a diamond, so
That's true.
right.
It was so cheesy.
More about that in our next episode.
Anyway, but not all experiences for me, at least, were bad. Because I haven't used Tinder in I think 2 years now. But when I was using it, I mainly used Tinder, Bumble, and OkCupid. Eventually, I just cut out of
You
my
dropped
life.
it. Okay.
Too many guys to manage. But from Tinder, I did make several friends, those who were interested in meeting up because they wanted to know about the Philippines, and also because they were just genuinely nice people. And I think around 3 of them I still talk to. We're still good friends.
That's good.
But the one guy that I really have a good friendship with, when we met, I was just starting my own company at the time, and then he had just surpassed the birth pains or growth pains of his company, because he also started his own company. And when we met, he was like 5 years into that company, and he was so nice. He answered all my questions, because I've never really started anything before the company that I have now. So I was asking him just like experiences of how it is, how it feels to start your own company. We have different industries, but it's both service oriented. So he had a lot of good things to say about where to find business, how to streamline operations, and really just experiences of being a new business owner. So there's still, good stuff about
Yeah.
people.
You made a good point there. I think dating in general, it doesn't really have to end up in a romantic relationship.
Mm,
Like some dating could end up in good friendships or
yeah,
mentorships even. So
yeah.
yeah, that's a really good
It took, again, mountains of garbage to find
point.
3 friends and 1 boyfriend. I mean, it's fun,
It's
but
okay. Charge of experience.
that's
Always
true.
remember that.
Um, but I mean, again, you're lucky because you met
Yeah.
Gian super early and you didn't have to go through all the garbage. But I do know that you didn't tell
Mm,
everybody that you met Gian on Tinder. Why not?
yes. Because of course I come from a conservative family, and when I initially told my mom that I met
Mm,
Gian online, she had her doubts, and she would tell me why, or like, is that even safe, or are you sure about that? So
mm,
there's still that stigma
mm,
of especially the older generation, our moms, our titas, our lolas, they wouldn't really get it that we're meeting people online. So for the first year, I think,
mm.
first year, I was telling people that I met Ian through common friends, and they would believe me because we are in the same circle, so it's
Mm,
not that impossible to happen. So yeah,
true.
that's why I didn't tell
But do you tell people
people.
now, 5 years later?
Yeah. Well, when they ask me, it's not like something. It's not like something I would go tell the people immediately. I met him on Tinder.
Hi,
I'm not.
Gian. This is Gian from Tinder.
So I met him through Tinder. Yeah. So unless Tinder would pay me, maybe I would do that.
But I completely
Oh,
understand. I mean,
yeah.
I can remember, yeah, to be completely honest, I also had my doubts.
You
I
also had
mean,
your doubts.
yeah, when you told me about Gian, and then when because
Oh,
I knew that he was from Tinder. And at the time,
yeah.
again, Tinder was very new. It's a hookup app. People there
Mm-mm.
are only good for one thing. So, I mean, it's so rare before. It was very rare before to know about people who have real relationships coming out of these online dating apps. But now it's
Yeah.
not so uncommon, Like there are
No.
I know a lot of people who met their one and
Mm.
got married to their Tinder
Yep.
dates. So it's not as bad now, but I remember when I was new to using Tinder, it was like a secret life that I had. Like I did only very, very few people knew that I was using Tinder,
Mm.
and I would be very scared of looking people up on Tinder because I might see someone I know or someone I know might see
Mm.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I do see someone I know on Tinder, I would block them so they will never
So
see
they
me
won't
again.
see you.
So there were a lot of things that I was very shy about being on Tinder.
Mm-mm.
Um, but I mean, we both have really good relationships coming out of the app now, years
Yes.
later. So I guess it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. And you, how about you? Have you already told your parents about your boyfriend?
No.
What? All
No,
right.
everyone knows except my family.
Oh my gosh. So they're gonna know now. Hi, tita.
I'm kind of hoping that somehow they find this video so I don't have to tell them and explain myself. No, but I
Okay.
mean, there are two things. Aside from the fact that I've never introduced anybody to my
Mm.
parents,
Mm.
because my mom especially, she's a very, 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 very traditional conservative Filipino mom. So now that I'm 33, she is expecting me to have had babies and
Mm.
have a husband already by now, but I don't. So anyone I would introduce to her would automatically have to be my husband.
Okay, I get it.
Too much pressure. And then
Yeah.
connected to that, I don't know how to explain to them what Tinder is about. I remember telling my mom about another friend who was on Tinder. I forgot what the story was, but I just mentioned my friend was on Tinder, met this guy from Tinder, and her reaction was immediately very, very negative. Judged my friend for being,
Mm.
how do I say that? Haliparot. Judge her for being
Yeah,
haliparot, for
that's a
being
term.
on
That's
the
a term they use. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Judged her for being haliparot because she's on Tinder, and
Mm.
my mom expects my friend to just be again looking for men to sleep with, and then judge the guy because he's from Tinder, he's foreigner. So you never know what the real intentions are coming from a dating app. Even if I said, "Oh no, they're in a good relationship now," but she doesn't believe it. So I'm sure she will have a worse reaction about me. Um, so I am just waiting for the moment. We'll cross the bridge when we get there.
I think that's one thing that people should get over with. Like, it's already 2020. Like, women can already be online looking for their partners. We don't have to wait in our homes
Mm-hmm.
for that perfect guy or
Mm-hmm.
ano yung the term to be panliligaw. We
Yeah.
don't have to wait for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it on our own.
Yeah. And especially since we're modern women,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can, there's no right or wrong way to
Mm.
have a relationship anyway. And,
Mm.
you shouldn't be pressured about what other people say too. I mean, I am, especially about what my parents would say. But it didn't stop me from, making it serious with my current boyfriend. So with that, how are you and Gian 5 years later from meeting on
Well,
Tinder?
we have a baby now, so I told you it's a match made in Tinder heaven. It wasn't that it well, it wasn't an easy relationship. You know that the
Mm,
past 5 years it was crazy. So uh, couldn't really say that Tinder is the best way for meeting people or online dating. It's still a
true.
regular relationship that still needs work.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter if you met that person online or through a friend or whatever. It's
Right.
still the work that you have to put into every relationship to make it work. And actually, I recently found out that the networking people are using Tinder.
What do you mean?
Like, so they would match with you, and then when you go on that first date, they would recruit you in their MLM. So I had
What?
friends. I had friends who
So
got fooled with that.
annoying.
I know, but you can't really blame them. It's hard to earn money
Yes.
during this pandemic. But yeah, so like what you said, we should just lower our expectations.
Lower. manage expectations.
Manage the expectations. That's a better term.
Again, you can use Tinder however you want, and it is possible to find your significant other from Tinder, but
Mm,
also that's not very common. I would still say that most people on Tinder or Bumble or OkCupid are there for fun,
yeah.
and most probably they're also talking to other girls.
Mm,
Even if they say they're not talking to other girls, even if they say they're looking
mm.
for a serious relationship, that's not always the case. It can be just a line. So no matter what you're looking for, I feel like everyone should just have no expectations
Yeah.
when they go on these apps.
Mm.
You're more likely to be disappointed if you go into Tinder or Bumble or OkCupid thinking, today I am going to swipe right on my future husband. Because you're right, it
Yeah.
still takes
Yeah.
work. Then online dating is just like normal dating. You don't
Mm-hmm.
agree to a dinner immediately and ask them to marry you.
Yeah.
So it's really just enjoy the experience. Know when and how to be safe online. There are a lot of lurkers and pervs in the world. and most of them are on Tinder.
The Chismis Table.